Hello, I'm Morris Ruddick. During this series, we've been talking about Jewish business secrets. We've been taking a closer look at the dynamics that over the centuries have made the Jewish people be known as a people of business. So what are the ways of the Jews that have enabled them to overcome the many instances of adversity and persecution over the millennia, to become a people known for their disproportionate achievement? It's more than a set of principles. Although the principles involved are important, it involves a way of thinking as well as models that strengthen and protect the community. During this session, we're going to take a closer look at the model that consistently has been applied by the Jewish people. In early 1999, I was sent to Ethiopia to evaluate potential business opportunity for members of a group of very poor black Ethiopian Jewish believers. The Flash Amora is an Ethiopian community of Jewish heritage. Their heritage and beliefs combined to be a dilemma for them. In short, as the saying goes, they were operating between a rock and a hard place. This community of Ethiopian Jewish believers were not accepted by the Ethiopian Coptic Church because of being Jews. On the other hand, when Operation Solomon took place and Ethiopian Jews were immigrated to Israel, they didn't qualify because they believed in their Jewish Messiah Jesus. Having at that point traveled internationally to over 30 nations, I had seen business opportunity gleaned and created from within a range of economically deprived cultural settings. However, the poverty I was exposed to while evaluating opportunity for these Ethiopian brethren assaulted my sensibilities. I found myself crying out in prayer, Lord, their condition should not be. These are your people. I know you must have an answer, and I know it's not a Western MBA business model. It was within a month following this heart cry prayer, during my daily Bible reading, I was preparing to again plow my way through the book of Deuteronomy. Since the early days of my walking with the Lord, I have proactively saturated myself with biblical truth and maintained a rigorous Bible reading program. This Bible reading program has taken me through the Old Testament scripture twice a year and the New Testament 5 times a year. Admittedly, however, truly understanding Deuteronomy had been a challenge. While I had absorbed many truths from my more than roughly 50 readings of this segment of Scripture, I frankly stumbled over what seemed to me as a lot of do's and don'ts. However, following this prayer, I began reading again through this foundational book of Jewish principles. As I did, it was like scales fell off my eyes, and I realized what I was reading were the principles on how to run a God-centered entrepreneurial community. I became aware of the role of the truths contained in this book alone, which have made the Jewish people so successful in business over the years. I took over 50 pages of notes. I also realized that God was answering my question on His solution for a people living in conditions like these poor Ethiopian brethren. I began understanding that it is often the simple things that confound the wise. From the time that God has had a people, He has given His followers the means, the model, and the wisdom to excel not only in business, but to employ community strategies that would endure and make a way from generation to generation. From that dramatic, illuminating time of reading through Deuteronomy, truths I had previously seen in many other sections of the Bible began having greater relevance as I began putting together the first steps for the entrepreneurial program I now take around the world. In my late 50s in age at the time, this illumination of the truths of biblical business secrets turned my 3 decades role as a business consultant into one of putting on business seminars in critical, needy areas based on these truths. These insights are a part of a series on Jewish business secrets. They are a part of an enduring Jewish way of thinking. They have been foundational to the Jewish people surviving as a people the civilizations that have come and gone over the millennia. Civilizations in which the Jews have contributed and been a part, but have faded into history. During the first 2 sessions, we talked about foundations and enduring elements that make the Jewish people distinctive. I expressed my personal belief that it has been the loss of these foundations in the Christian faith that have resulted in people like Gandhi being drawn to the teachings of Jesus, but repelled by the lives of his followers. Our focus on Jewish business secrets are not all, but represent a key part of these lost foundations. A century ago in the West, business ownership was a means to take care of your family. It's the way it is today in many Asian countries. It is a bottom-up model. Over the centuries, business ownership for the Jewish people not only has been the means to provide for their families, but it has represented a level of protection against the fickle response of employers easily swayed by the fears, anger, and misperceptions associated with anti-Semitism. In feudal societies in the Middle Ages, wealthy landowners ruled over the majority of people, serving as poor peasants who worked the owner's land. During these days, Jews served necessary functions as merchants, brokers, bankers, and peddlers. Where there was no middle class, their role in their communities served to create this new economic class of people. They were expert in business. So societies in need of the functions they served sought them out. Business ownership for the Jewish people began as a God thing. Abraham is considered the father of the Jewish people. Abraham was extremely prophetic and sensitive to spiritual things. Abraham had a progressive sequence of God encounters that shaped his destiny and the destiny of that of his descendants. In this process, Abraham became the head of an economic community of more than 300 people. What Abraham operated was the model. They combined the spiritual and community with the economic means of being self-sufficient and self-sustaining. In short, Abraham ran a God-centered, entrepreneurial community. Globally today, 2/3 of the world has little or no middle class. These are people who live on less than $2 a day. Well-intended humanitarian efforts, as well as the efforts of many church-related groups to alleviate poverty and hunger, have simply not changed things. However, within the Orthodox Jewish community, there exists a social system to care for their own, Ancient scripture says that there should be no poor among you. Yet when there is, there are strategies for addressing it. We'll talk more about that during the series. I shared with you how, beginning with a more complete understanding of the principles outlined in Deuteronomy, that the Lord began to answer my heart cry to the dilemma of the brethren in Ethiopia. His answer didn't stop there. Roughly 2 months after my very challenging trip to Ethiopia, I attended a conference of Christian business leaders in Singapore. 2 weeks before leaving for that conference, I received an email from a missionary in Singapore named Bill. Bill had somehow gotten a copy of a talk I had given 2 years prior on the example of the biblical patriarch Joseph, and how Joseph's strategies, merging the spiritual and natural, averted disaster for the society of which he was a part. Bill wanted to know if I had any other materials on the topic, and then concluded his email by asking if I would be coming to Singapore anytime soon. I knew this was more than just a chance encounter, and that God was orchestrating meeting together with this man. Taking time from my conference, I met with Bill on several occasions. He shared with me a most unusual set of circumstances defining his life. These represented the developments that had led to him contacting me. Bill had a PhD in geophysics. That was his profession when he had an encounter with the Lord. That encounter refocused his priorities, and he moved from his home in Great Britain to a base in Singapore, where he began operating as a missionary in regions of Southeast Asia. Bill began sharing with me a most unusual story about how the Lord had redirected his efforts, as well as his way of thinking. It illustrates how this Jewish model, which began with Abraham, can overcome the most adverse of economic circumstances. It represented another clue in the answers I had been asking for as a result of my time in Ethiopia. So next time we meet, I'll share with you Bill's story and the wisdom that unfolded that has guided me in putting together an economic development program that I've taken to more than 20 nations around the world, with results that defy my Western way of viewing things. Again, I'm Morris Ruddick, and I look forward to our next time together.